Good morning. My name is Chi-Young Wang. Today, in this colloquium, our topic is exploring art-science collaborations. I will use my master project as a case study to talk about how I explore the collaboration with neuroscientists, psychiatrists on the subject of mindfulness. During my exploration of my field research, my projects included a workshops and exchange program with scientists, a forum on art and science collaborations, and a final installation, which is an experiential installation inspired by mindfulness and its related scientific research. After this presentation, we can use this master project as a case study. We can talk about the potential of the transdisciplinary art-science collaboration with the jury. For example, in this kind of collaboration, what could be the challenges, what could be the benefits, and what could be the potential directions that artists and scientists could do together. Before we go further, the core of my research with scientists is about mindfulness. But what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a psychological process that we all have. It is the ability to pay attention to the present moment and to observe calmly our own feelings, thoughts, and the changes in our body. By practicing mindfulness, we could gain better awareness on our own experience and how our emotions come and go. It helps us to understand the way we think and the coordination between our mind and our body. Mindfulness is one of the very popular topics in neuroscience. It is also being introduced in psychiatric practice as well as in education. Many scientists try to understand how mindfulness practice could help us to reshape the connectivity in our brains, and how practicing mindfulness could help us to manage and handle emotions, both to our own and to others, and how it could lead us to a constructive behavior change. I will begin with how my motivations and my questions I have as an artist bringing me to create this transdisciplinary project. My background is in theater and in installation art. Since about 10-12 years ago, I started to combine scenography and immersive experience together into my installations. Meanwhile, I also work for theater and educations. Throughout the years of my creative career, I have questioned about how we can use theater or installation art as an intervention for improving mental health. Can artists and scientists orbit around the subject of mental health and create collaborative research? This is what makes me curious and come to this transdisciplinary master program. Thanks to the liberty of this master program, it allows me to research and seek for the possible answer beyond my tradition of my artistic practice. At the beginning of the master project, the concept is to explore how to work in a transdisciplinary setting with neuroscientists and psychiatrists to learn their views on mindfulness and their research. But the question is how? As an independent artist, I do not know much about any existing collaborative setting between artists and scientists, or what I could bring to them. So I start to think, how can I approach the scientists and create exchange? I then come up with the idea of a transdisciplinary collaborations to connect our practices, such as my experiential installations, the neuroimaging from neuroscience, and mindfulness from psychiatric practice. Starting from here, we can create conversations, dialogue, exchange between our views and our works. And then I could look into how to render the experience working with scientists and learning their views and knowledge, and I can use it into a new installations. So I recognize my master project as a prototype of an art-science collaborations by inventing this prototype and executing the idea so that I could fully understand the actual challenge and what would be the full potentials. Here's the project I have done in which I try to implement the idea to fulfill my curiosity. As I mentioned before, they included a workshop and exchange program, a forum, and a final installations. The first one was the workshop and exchange program in a 6-month artist in residency. It was being facilitated by the artists in that program, Etterhard and Sanatorium Kreuzberg. The objective was to work together with neuroscientists and psychiatrists in their scientific lab. So we basically orbit around the topic of mindfulness, and based on this, we start to share our views and our research during the whole residency period. So this is where we also have to face the challenge how to collaborate in a transdisciplinary setting between artistic method and scientific method. So by the end of the residency, we can conclude a model of our exchange that we designed to create reciprocal exchange. So we focus on these 4 major activities as our pillars to support our exchange. First pillar is weekly workshop. The aim is to exchange on our professional practice. So we have 2 sessions. The first session is input scientists. We invite the scientists to present their research related to mindfulness or stress. And the second session is the artist sessions, to have this artist to share my past installation, my idea, my concept, and my views, how and why I would like to use the experiential installation as an intervention to enhance mindfulness. So this is the moment that we exchange our dialogue. So the second pillar is collaborating prototype as case study. We pick up their scientific prototype or scientific case study that we use that to have the artist to advise. For instance, we have the VR project they were developing to try to help people to slow down their heart rate. So I would suggest an artistic scenario and how to create a more aesthetic way in respecting the scientific requirement to create a scenario. So the second one is the artistic prototype for the scientist to advise on. So basically we use the development or the design of the experiential installations as our starting point, and then we start to discuss the potential and the requirement and the essential factors, how to use it as an intervention. So the third pillar is to have the meeting with the other scientists in the lab. So to learn about the research, because in the neuroscience world or the psychiatric world, there's many different type of scientists work together interdisciplinary. So by having meeting with them, having workshop with them, discussing with them, so it made me understand more about their organism and how they work together. So the fourth pillar is also one of the most interesting part, is to be their control subject in the experiment, to understand their research method and the technology being used. The second project was an international forum that I co-curated with the artists in that program. The objective was to discuss the art-science collaboration with educators, scientists, and students. It was where I have to figure and reflect my experience working with the scientists from the artists in that program, and how to think and how to consider and how to transform what I learned from the scientists and translate into my artistic creations. The final installation is called To See a World in a Grain of Sand, an experiential installation inspired by mindfulness. The whole run of the installation offers an experience about 24 minutes. This project is also the final stop of my master project. I basically render my experience and some scientific information I learned from scientists and implement them into my creative process to prepare these exhibitions. For instance, I learned from a neurologist that the parasympathetic system, which is responsible to lower down our heart rate and also responsible to calm down our body. So we can trigger this relaxing system by taking a long and slow deep breath. And often we use biofeedback machine along with the visual cues to train someone's breathing technique in order to help them to relax. So in some of the moments in my installation, I attempt to use this idea to create very gentle visual and audio rhythm to make the visitor to engage their mindful observation in various moments in the installations. The purpose is to make them to reflect and to focus on the present moment around them or in them, similar to the visual cues we use in the biofeedback machines. Sometimes it's very fast and sometimes it's very slow. So before we go further, I will show you a short video of the installations. But remember, the whole experience is about 24 minutes. So the installations offer an audio, visual, and tactile experience for the visitor to stroll there just to observe the aesthetic surrounding. I use light, sound, and touch and music as an intervention to grab the attention of the visitor and to let them to focus on the present moment. So my aim is to offer the visitor an experience to engage into their mindful ability so that they can observe the surrounding, their emotions, and themselves. So we now come back to our today's topic, exploring arts and science collaborations. As I mentioned before, we can use this overview of this master project as a case study to discuss what would be the challenges, what would be the benefit, and what would be the possible directions when artists and scientists work together. So for instance, we have challenges at the very beginning, simply just how artists and scientists could work together. So because our methods are very, very different. But somehow when we aim for finding solutions, we see more possibility and we also open new doors. For instance, one of our physicists would say this is impossible to collaborate because art installation as such, involving so many visual and audio stimulations, is very, very difficult, or really impossible to verify any therapeutic effect on the human brain by trying to use the neuroimaging device. But meanwhile, one of the psychiatrists in the lab joined the conversation and suggested that would be possible if we measure by intervention study to see if this kind of experience would have any beneficial effect towards human behavior, not to the brain, but to the behavior. Similar to we use VR experience, meditation, and even yoga to enhance the training of people, someone doing mindfulness practice. So if you would like to know more, you could have a look of the project thesis in which I talk more about the process of making the whole master project and all the discussion with the scientists. So thank you for your time. I will stop here. So please feel free to share your thoughts and ask questions. Thank you very much.